Does your relationship look fine from the outside? You don't have those huge, explosive fights, but lately, a quiet resentment has been building up, and you just can't pinpoint why. It's this corrosive feeling that eats away at love, making you feel like you're walking on eggshells, or worse, living with a roommate instead of the person you love. I have been there. I ignored these exact feelings in a past relationship, telling myself everything was okay when it really wasn't. See, it's not always the big dramatic betrayals that end a relationship. More often, it's the slow accumulation of tiny, overlooked habits that wear down the connection until there's nothing left to stand on. I kept pretending everything was fine, swallowing my frustrations and thinking I was just being easygoing. In reality, I was building a wall of unspoken resentment, brick by silent brick, until it was too high to ever climb over. The promise, the danger of these habits, is just how quiet they are. They're silent killers that creep in and sabotage a good thing without you even realizing it. In this video, I'm going to share the 5 silent habits that are ruining your relationship so you can see the warning signs I missed. Just becoming aware of them is the first, most powerful step you can take. Good day, everyone. I am Anthony Binns. Welcome back to Personal Development TV. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check out the links in the description. Habit number 1, the you should know mentality. The first silent habit is something I call the you should know mentality. This is that unspoken belief that your partner should be a mind reader. You expect them to just know what you need, how you feel, or what you want, without you ever having to say it out loud. It's a trap made of unspoken expectations. This might look like being upset that your partner didn't comfort you after a rough day, even though you told them you were fine. Or maybe it's that sting of disappointment when they don't plan a special date night you never actually mentioned wanting. You think, if they really loved me, they would just know. Here's the damage this does. It sets your partner up to fail every single time. No one can read minds, and expecting them to is not only unrealistic, it's deeply unfair. It's a way of avoiding real communication, which only leads to misunderstandings and distance. When your partner inevitably fails to meet these secret expectations, resentment starts to build. You keep a mental scorecard of their failures, and they're left feeling confused and anxious, constantly wondering what they did wrong this time. In my past relationship, I was the queen of this. I'd come home after a brutal day at work, wanting nothing more than some support. He'd ask if I was okay, and I'd say, "I'm fine, just tired." But inside, I was screaming, "Please ask me more, show me you care." When he just nodded and went back to what he was doing, this cold knot of resentment formed in my stomach. I thought, see, he doesn't care. The truth is, I never gave him a chance to. I expected him to see through my mask, and I held it against him when he couldn't. Habit number 2, disrespect disguised as humor. The second silent habit is one of the most toxic, disrespect disguised as humor. It's so sneaky because it lets someone land a painful blow and then dodge any responsibility by saying, "What? It was just a joke. Can't you take a joke?" Now, this isn't about the good-natured teasing that happens in a healthy relationship. This is about comments that have a sting. It's that sly jab about your intelligence, a backhanded compliment about how you look, or a sarcastic dig about your career in front of your friends. It's a comment that cuts just a little too deep, followed by a "just kidding" that's meant to erase the harm. The damage here is twofold. First, it slowly chips away at your self-esteem. You start to wonder if there's some truth to these jokes. Second, it destroys any feeling of emotional safety. When your partner uses humor as a weapon, you can no longer trust them. You stop sharing your successes because you're afraid of a sarcastic jab, and you hide your insecurities because you're worried they'll become material for the next joke. I experienced this firsthand. My ex would often make jokes about my creative ambitions in front of our friends. He'd say things like, "Oh, here she goes again with her little art project," and then chuckle. If I looked hurt, he'd roll his eyes and say I was being too sensitive. For a long time, I tried to laugh it off and be the cool girlfriend. But every one of those jokes was a small cut. I started hiding my passions from him. The person who was supposed to be my biggest supporter had become the person I was most afraid to be vulnerable with. Habit number 3, the emotional shutdown. The third silent habit is the emotional shutdown, also known as stonewalling. This is when one person completely withdraws in the middle of a tough conversation. They stop responding, they won't make eye contact, and they put up this invisible, impenetrable wall. It's the silent treatment, and it can be just as damaging as a screaming match. This isn't the same as taking a healthy timeout to cool down. A healthy timeout comes with a promise to come back and finish the conversation later. A shutdown is one person deciding the conversation is over, period, leaving the other person feeling completely abandoned. You're trying to connect and solve a problem, and you're met with nothing. It feels like you're talking to a brick wall. The damage from this is huge. It makes the other partner feel ignored, invalidated, and deeply alone. It prevents any kind of conflict resolution, so issues never get solved. They just get buried, waiting to explode later. This pattern screams that your feelings just aren't important. Over time, it kills intimacy because you learn that trying to discuss anything real will only lead to being shut out. Whenever we had a serious argument, my ex would just shut down. His face would go blank, and he'd physically turn away from me. No matter what I said, I was met with absolute silence. In those moments, I felt this desperate, frantic loneliness. I was in a room with the person I loved, but I had never felt more alone. That repeated shutdown taught me that our problems were unfixable and that ultimately I was on my own in their relationship. Habit number 4, the roommate phase. The fourth silent habit is one that happens so gradually you barely notice it, slipping into the roommate phase. This is when the romance and intentional connection just fade. Life gets replaced by the mundane logistics of sharing a space. Your conversations are all about schedules, bills, and what's for dinner. You coexist, but you don't connect. It happens subtly. Date nights get pushed back, then forgotten entirely. You stop asking about each other's day with real curiosity. You might be sitting on the same couch, but you're a million miles apart, each scrolling on your own phone. The spontaneous affection, the small thank yous, the shared inside jokes, they all disappear. You start taking each other for granted, and that feeling of being undervalued starts to creep in. The damage is a slow, quiet death of intimacy. Relationships need constant effort to thrive. When that effort stops, the emotional connection starves. You end up feeling incredibly lonely, even when your partner is right there next to you. You miss being seen, heard, and truly understood. This phase is so dangerous because on the surface, nothing is technically wrong. There's no big drama. But this profound lack of connection is the perfect breeding ground for resentment. and can lead people to look for that connection somewhere else. I remember the exact moment I realized we had become roommates. We were sitting on the couch after dinner, both on our laptops, in complete silence. And it hit me, this was our new normal. We hadn't had a real, meaningful conversation in weeks. We didn't touch, we didn't laugh together. We were just two people, sharing a space and a Wi-Fi password, running our lives like a business. Habit number 5, outsourcing your self-worth. The fifth and final silent habit is outsourcing your self-worth. This is when your sense of value and happiness becomes completely dependent on your partner's validation and attention. Their mood dictates your mood. A compliment from them makes your day. Their silence ruins it. This isn't about simply caring what your partner thinks. It's about needing their approval to feel okay about yourself. You stop trusting your own judgment until they've signed off on your decisions. You might change your hobbies, your opinions, or even how you dress to be what you think they want you to be. You're essentially making them the gatekeeper of your own self-esteem. The damage here is that you lose yourself. By constantly looking outside for validation, you silence your own inner voice. This also puts an impossible amount of pressure on your partner to be your one and only source of happiness, a job no single person can handle. It can lead you into an exhausting cycle of people-pleasing, which breeds resentment when you feel your efforts go unnoticed. A healthy relationship is made of two whole individuals, not two halves trying to complete each other. For a long time in that relationship, I measured my own worth by his reaction to me. I dressed for him, cooked the food he liked, and suggested things I thought he'd enjoy, all for a scrap of praise. My entire emotional state was tied to his. If he was happy with me, I was happy. If he was distant, I was a wreck. I realized I had no idea who I was or what I wanted outside of his approval. Taking back my self-worth was the hardest and most important thing I ever did, because it forced me to be responsible for my own happiness. And that's essential for any healthy partnership. So, let's recap the 5 silent habits: the you should know mentality, disrespect disguised as humor, the emotional shutdown, the roommate phase, and outsourcing your self-worth. These habits are sneaky. They often disguise themselves as just normal parts of a long-term relationship. But over time, they build a foundation of resentment, erode trust, and create a distance that can feel impossible to cross. Recognizing them in your own life is the first, most powerful step toward change. It's a wake-up call that something needs to be addressed before it's too late. The goal isn't just to fix the relationship, but to build a connection based on real respect, open communication, and two whole, self-respecting individuals who choose to be together. I know these topics can be tough to think about. If any of this resonated with you, I'd be so honored if you'd like this video and subscribe for more content like this. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever experienced one of these silent habits? Sharing your story can help so many others feel less alone. Thank you so much for watching.